Well, joining me now is Republican Congressman Issa from California. He's also a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, thank you for being with us. An interesting day for the president at the UN. A lot of words, a lot of familiar words, but he's got to contend with his actions over the past 8 months. Did anybody hear what he said? Or are they only watching what he's doing?
Well, look, they heard what he said, just like they heard what Chamberlain said when he said there'd be peace in our time. The actions that immediately followed his actions have spoken very loudly. Chaos in Afghanistan, chaos at the border, no real policy on China. Our allies are, except for the sale of those nuclear submarines to Australia, he doesn't have one action that actually will upset China.
But he does have a lot of actions that will apparently upset some of our allies. But let's talk about that a little bit. His message is relentless diplomacy. We're going to do this with our allies. But on the world stage, what are our allies really seeing out of America? And has America become a more trustworthy partner for this critical next 10 years, to use the president's words?
Well, he's obviously doing damage control. Australia and the United Kingdom have been with us in every battle, everywhere, every time, and that included in Afghanistan. They were major supporters throughout the process, and candidly, they were not properly informed or consulted or even appreciated as we packed up and ran in the middle of the night. And, you know, the British find themselves now with another unstable country that they still feel very responsible for.
Congressman, I want you to stay there. We're going to go to Fox's Trey Yingst, who's in Kabul talking to the Taliban. Trey, what do you got?
Brian, in Afghanistan, you see American military equipment everywhere, from guns to Humvees to aircraft. We're talking about billions of dollars worth of equipment left behind. Some of it was destroyed, some of it wasn't. Most of the American and Afghan military equipment at Kabul's airport was destroyed by U.S. forces before they left Kabul. That's not the case for the rest of Afghanistan. There are thousands of Humvees, aircraft, and other critical pieces of military equipment left behind, now in the hands of the Taliban. Taliban intelligence officer Nazir Ahmed escorts us into Kabul's international airport. Afghan pilots ran away with helicopters, he tells us. When we got control, thanks to God, they brought them back. The Taliban now controls thousands of American-made Humvees, weapons, and aircraft. Although in the Afghan capital, U.S. troops did destroy an estimated 170 pieces of equipment before leaving. Right now, the Taliban is explaining that American forces destroyed all of the displays and internal mechanisms inside these Black Hawks before they left Kabul's international airport. On the civilian side of the airport, domestic flights are already starting to land. The Taliban tells Fox News that operations are running around 90%. And that international commercial flights could start next week as repairs are finished.
In the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, thanks to God, all international airports are operating now, including Khust, Kandahar, Herat and Mazar-e Sharif. The most destroyed airport by the Americans was Kabul's international airport.
The main priority for Kabul's international airport moving forward is security. In recent days, there have been a number of ISIS-K attacks in Afghanistan against Taliban targets. Brian?
Thank you, Trey. Well, Congressman Issa is back with us. Okay, Congressman, you know, we're looking at this story, and the really sad thing is some of this is starting to fall out of the news, actually. We're losing touch with what's happening there. I think the Biden administration would love nothing more than for that to be the case. Talk to us about what's still happening on the ground with Americans who have been left in Afghanistan and don't seem to have a way out.
Well, every day we are in contact with spouses of Americans, and in some cases Americans that are there still either with or without their family wanting to leave. The most common example usually is a man or a woman with a spouse. The man or woman is an American citizen. The spouse is waiting to get a visa, and in some cases been waiting for 2 years. And of course, now there's no embassy, and the State Department is talking about how they can't do something unless they can get out of the country, but they can't get out of the country unless they get the clearance to go. So that's happening every day. But you mentioned something I think that's so important. We left 75,000 wheeled vehicles. We left over 200 advanced aircraft. A few were disabled. The vast majority are still able to fly and are going to be valuable, if not to the Afghans, to enemies of ours around the world.
And Congressman, the president really had almost nothing to say in his speech today about so much of what happened in Afghanistan. Does the world not demand a reckoning? Do Americans not demand a reckoning from their president on what happened and in what's happening now in that country to make sure that we keep our commitments to Americans, that we keep our commitments to allies in Afghanistan?
Well, these demands are going to come, at least from my party, not for weeks or months, but for years, until we get all of the Americans and their families out, until we, in fact, get to know more of exactly how we ended up in a position in which they say we have ability over the horizon. The fact is, to get to Afghanistan, we now have to fly over countries who may or may not let us fly over. We have no visibility on Iran, where previously we had very good accuracy. The list is endless of both military and foreign affairs failures that came out of this. So, yes, there'll be questions. I think the most important thing, Brian, is that we as Americans have lost an ability to tell our allies, trust us, and we've lost the ability to have our enemies decide not to challenge us. So both of those are going to occur as a result of this catastrophic failure.
And that is the question. How do America's enemies look at us in this moment of disorientation? What opportunity do they see? Let's hope we can get our act together quickly. Congressman, thank you for being with us today. We appreciate it.
Of course.